In the annals of English history, there exists a tale of a man who was more than just a monarch. He was a symbol of the enduring struggle between absolute monarchy and parliamentary democracy. This was King Charles I, a man whose actions and ideals would ultimately cost him his crown and his life. He is, to this day, the only English monarch to have been executed for treason, a testimony to the critical role he played in shaping the political landscape of Britain. Charles was born in Dunfermline, Scotland in 1600 to James VI of Scotland and Anne of Denmark. He was a second son, destined to play second fiddle to his elder brother Henry Frederick, the Prince of Wales. But destiny had different plans, and when Henry died at the tender age of 18, Charles, who was only 12 years old at the time, found himself heir to the thrones of England, Scotland, and Ireland. Growing up, Charles was not groomed to be a king. He was of a quiet disposition, more inclined towards the arts and learning than politics and leadership. But his father, James, tried to impart in him the doctrine of the divine right of kings, a belief that monarchs are chosen by God and are therefore not answerable to any earthly authority. This doctrine would help shape Charles's reign, planting the seeds of a struggle that would end in civil war. Upon his father's death in 1625, Charles inherited the three kingdoms at a tumultuous time. Religious conflicts, especially between the Protestants and Catholics, were rife. Additionally, there was an ongoing power struggle between the monarchy and the Parliament, a struggle Charles would inherit. He was also a firm believer in the divine right of kings, an idea that didn't sit well with the increasingly powerful Parliament. Charles married Henrietta Maria, a Catholic French princess, soon after ascending to the throne. This marriage was met with apprehension, as England was predominantly Protestant and was wary of Catholic influence. His pro-Catholic stance and his decision to marry a Catholic added fuel to the already strained relationship between the king and the Protestant Parliament. The early years of Charles's reign were marked by tension with Parliament. Charles often bypassed Parliament, employing ways to fund his reign without their consent. One such method was the levying of ship money tax, a tax traditionally imposed during war times, which Charles extended to peacetime and to inland counties. This arbitrary act angered the populace and the Parliament alike. In addition, Charles's religious policies did not sit well with the predominantly Protestant country. He attempted to introduce religious reforms that many felt leaned towards Catholicism, further exacerbating the tensions. The height of this came with his attempt to impose the Anglican Book of Common Prayer in Scotland in 1637, which led to widespread riots and eventually the bishops' wars. By the 1640s, the relationship between Charles and Parliament had reached a breaking point. What had been a simmering feud exploded into outright conflict. In 1642, Charles marched into the House of Commons to arrest 5 members of Parliament for treason. This audacious act is widely considered the spark that ignited the English Civil War. The Civil War was a bloody conflict that raged on for almost a decade, from 1642 to 1651, pitting the royalists who supported Charles against the parliamentarians, led by men like Oliver Cromwell. It was a war that tore the fabric of the nation apart, with brother fighting brother, family against family. Despite initial successes, the war turned against Charles. His armies were repeatedly defeated, and he himself was captured in 1646. Charles, however, did not lose hope. He attempted to negotiate a settlement with the parliamentarians, but his unwillingness to compromise and his attempts to play different factions against each other ultimately led to his downfall. In 1648, Charles was put on trial for treason. He was accused of waging war against his own people and attempting to establish an absolute and tyrannical monarchy. The trial was unprecedented. Never before had an English monarch been tried by his subjects. Charles defended himself bravely, denying the legitimacy of the court and standing by his belief in the divine right of kings. But the outcome was a foregone conclusion. On January 30, 1649, Charles I was beheaded, marking a momentous event in British history, the first and only time an English monarch was executed for treason. His execution did not bring about the end of monarchy in England, as his son Charles II was restored to the throne in 1660. However, the experience of Charles I's reign significantly changed the English monarchy. The idea of absolute monarchy, of the king above the law, was rejected. The power of the monarchy was curtailed, and the parliamentary democracy became an integral part of the governance of the country. King Charles I's life, reign, and death serve as a powerful reminder of the delicate balance between monarchy and democracy. His belief in the divine right of kings, his strained relationship with Parliament, and his eventual execution for treason marked a turning point in British history. Charles's reign served as a catalyst for the evolution of England into a constitutional monarchy, forever altering the course of the country's history. In the end, Charles I's story is more than just a tale of a king who lost his throne and his life. It is a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked power and the necessity of compromise and consensus in governance. It is a story that has been etched in the annals of British history, serving as a reminder of a turbulent time that shaped the destiny of a nation.